What up, though, y'all? It's Chris. Appreciate y'all connecting with me out here Midtown, getting around 10,000 steps every day. Let me move over here, man. Gotta watch out for them hazards. Can't get too distracted over here. I'm sure y'all want to continue to get my content daily. Nothing happening to me, so I end up incapacitated. This topic here, y'all, is from a subscriber, Transformation 13. Shout out to you. The topic at hand is about people wanting to be victims, or wanting to be seen as victims, want to be considered victims. Just kind of want to be that victim. Yeah, that's a really good one. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. Well, so a lot of times if you're a victim, then you don't have to be responsible for your outcomes. You can kind of make excuses for them. I'm a victim. This happened to me. It's not right. It's not fair. There's something keeping me down. Nah, man, that ain't it. And it's unfortunate. I hate to say this, but my own kind really take advantage of this. I don't subscribe to the victim mentality, so I'm usually an outlier. I've never been a victim a day in my life. Every day I do what I want to do and I don't do what I don't want to do. And I live with the consequences. If it's something that I know I'm supposed to do and I don't do it, I live with that outcome. This didn't happen for me, but it would have if I would have took action. I chose not to. That is on me. That's no one else's fault. It's mine. So I own my actions, positive or negative. I own my actions and I accept the outcomes that comes with the action or the lack of an action. If you're a victim, you can always opt out. You don't ever have to be responsible. If you always are like, oh, this is happening to me, that's happening to me, you never really have to be responsible for what's going on in your life, the failures. And that's just not your boy, man. I can't do that. I'm fortunate that I had the men in my life that I did growing up. I had men that were that weren't complainers, that were providers. They were just very strong leaders. So none of them would have ever offered any of that victim mentality stuff. It's just not something that I grew up seeing. It's not something that I at all grew up seeing. So it's not something that I adopted or even wanted to try to buy into. I'm always going to accept what it is that I do or don't do, and I'm going to own the outcomes. But oftentimes we see people do this. We see a lot of times the women do this, especially because women are simply held to a different standard than us men are when it comes to being responsible and being accountable. Women, in most cases, are just absolutely allergic to accountability. They can make all of the poor choices under the sun, and it's always going to be somebody else's fault for why they got a bad outcome. Strong and independent is a choice, and oftentimes it does lead to the worst outcomes. And I guess I could just list off a couple examples. If you make the choice to be a single mom, you have to live with the outcome of that. It's not somebody's fault. Nobody did anything to you. Is the father partially responsible for his part in the child being created? Yes, absolutely he is. But that doesn't absolve you from your part in it all. I see this all the time. Who's this behind me? What are they doing? Why are they going so slow? Let me move over here. But I see this happen all the time. I see women, they've got multiple kids by multiple different men, and the situation that they're in is somehow it's all the men's fault. I'm not saying that the men didn't play a part in it. It takes two to tango, right? The two of y'all had to concede to do whatever it is that y'all did, but you chose to keep having children with multiple men. So how is everything in this everyone else's fault or just the men's fault? You actively made choices that you knew would have a negative outcome on your life. If you are struggling to feed yourself, you're living alone and you're struggling to feed yourself, and you opt to bring another mouth to feed, into the world, then understand you are making a decision to make life harder for yourself. That just is what it is, and you have to accept that. It doesn't mean you're the only one responsible, but you do have responsibility in it, and you really have to own that. So as long as you are a victim, as I said, you don't have to be responsible, or at least you think you don't have to be responsible for your outcomes. Because if you're a victim, stuff is always being done to you. Things are always keeping you down. You can never get ahead. Listen, bad luck happens. You know, you can have bad luck for a day, for a week, for a month, and you can have really bad luck and it lasts for a year, which is very unlikely. But let's give a grace. Let's say you have bad luck for a year. Okay, you had a year worth of bad luck. Bottom line is, that's all you get. All right. If you're having bad luck year after year after year after year, you had a decade of bad luck, you have to acknowledge that you are making bad choices that are resulting in the outcome that you're getting. Ain't no such thing as no decade of bad luck. Ain't no such thing as the last 20 years of bad luck. You've been alive and you've been making choice after choice after choice, day after day during those 10, 20 years. How is it luck? See what I mean? Like, these things about luck, or these things about, oh, I can't get ahead. You know, the worst one I think is we are somehow at a disadvantage because we're black. No, we are not at some disadvantage because we're black. Are there some disadvantages to being black? You know, like just innately? Sure. But there's also some innate advantages to being black. So you can't just list the negative stuff and never list the positive stuff. There's pros and cons to being black. There's pros and cons to being white. So people will say, oh, whites have more of an advantage. Okay, perhaps that's true. You know, when you have a country that was, you know, dominated by white folks, and white folks are the majority, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that white folks don't have a bigger advantage. Sure. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's impossible for black folks to get ahead, because it's not. We have tons of filthy rich black actors, black athletes, black rappers, black singers. I mean, we have a ton of highly successful black folks. We got a bunch of successful black folks out there that aren't even famous. They just rich and not famous. So, you know, it doesn't work. Trying to make it seem like you're a victim and you just can never get ahead because life isn't fair, the world isn't fair, and all, it just doesn't work. Life is not fair, and I don't want it to be. It is up to you to create an advantage for yourself. You have to do that. You have to create an advantage for yourself. And if you create an advantage for yourself through however way you did, be it hard work or you're just clever, savvy enough to create, okay, great. The next person doesn't have that advantage because they just simply didn't look for a way. And that's okay. You know, life doesn't have to be fair. But what I'm not going to do, even though life isn't fair, I'm not going to sit here and cry and complain about it and act like I'm a victim in it all. I can't tell you how much of a victim I'm not. Right? I'm a black man. I live in the greatest country on the face of the planet. What the hell would I be bitching and moaning about? And it's not like I came from money. I didn't. I was born and raised in the city of Detroit. Y'all see I'm in Detroit. I love my city. Even with that starting point, I still turn my life into something. So it comes down to you. It comes down to you. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want to change your circumstances? How bad do you want a life, a better one for you, for your family, for your children? It comes down to you. It's always going to come down to you. No matter what. Let me let this Escalade go past. It's always going to come down to you and nobody else. There is nobody that has more influence on your life than you do. And I'm fully aware of that. That's why I never fall into that victim bullshit. I can't relate to it. I don't want to relate to it. Your boy is always going to own his failures. But most of all, I'm going to own my success as well. I love winning. I fucking love winning. So I can't just sit around with that loser mentality of blaming everything bad that happens on somebody else. That's never gonna happen for me, man. So I hope whoever needed to hear that, it lands, and you receive it with the love that was intended behind it. What we got going on? Let me move off to the side and finish kicking it with y'all. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, man. I appreciate y'all connecting with me. We continuing on this grind for 5,000 subs. You know, y'all that's been taking this journey with me, man, really, it's very humbling. The messages y'all leave me, they're very humbling, and I always read them. I always will read them. So thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.